when we hallucinate, I always say make it funny. Like, really go as far as you can in actually thinking about the worst case scenario in this situation. So if traffic is bad and you're late, you're going to lose your job, you're going to end up on the streets, you're going to lose everything, or, maybe the client didn't move forward with you and that's what triggered you, it's basically the end of the world. Hi there, it's Kelly Resendez and welcome back. So today we're going to dig into emotional triggers. So I think that we can all agree that as we navigate life, there are so many emotional triggers that can accidentally derail our vision for how we want to feel and the goals that we want to achieve. And so having a really solid strategy to be able to navigate triggers is a must, because the last thing that we want to do is to really set intentions on our life and then allow something externally to come between that. And so I'm going to share with you a strategy that I use. Now, I'm always simultaneously trying to heal those triggers, but a lot of times it takes a little bit of time. So I'm going to give you this 4-step process. So step 1 is to really understand the emotion that you're experiencing. So I think your body's going to tell you when you're triggered, whether you feel it in your gut, you tense up, maybe you get into that fight or flight mode where you can feel your nervous system really just getting triggered. But we want to understand what emotion we're actually feeling. So oftentimes we might say things like overwhelmed or, I know I'm just not feeling great. But what we want to do is really get to the root of the emotion. And emotions are, pretty standard across the board. There can be anger, there can be sadness, frustration, you can be feeling anxious, you can be feeling, fearful. There are so many emotions that can be triggered, but you really want to take a breath. So the last thing that we want to do is we don't want to react. We want to find a way to respond. And so we want to use self-awareness in step 1, just to kind of take a deep breath and really to ground into what emotion we're experiencing, so that you really know the underlying, feeling that you're going up against. I know for myself, a lot of times I feel a little bit of sadness, but then when I really dug a little bit deeper, it was really anger. And I was afraid to really admit that I was really upset about something. And so that's step 1. Step 2 is to identify the preference in your life that this trigger is coming up against. And so when I mean preference, a lot of times it might seem like it's something simple as like, I wish that this person would treat me better. I wish they would treat me with more respect. But when I go a little deeper onto a preference, I start to find that it's normally a really overarching expectation that I have for my life experience that this trigger is going up against. So if you take something as simple as traffic, right? So you're getting triggered. Maybe you're afraid of being late, whatever that might be. You're angry that you should have gotten ready better, or maybe somebody, is driving erratically, whatever it might be. If you look at step 2 and what is that preference? Well, of course, we would prefer that traffic was always running smoothly, but that's not a possibility. And so we go a little deeper on that preference, which was, I just wish everything in my life would be smooth sailing, which we know is not possible. So it's important to really get deeper on that preference. Now, step 3 is what I call a pattern disruption. And so we want to hallucinate. So rather than letting our brain do all of the, I would say I kind of call it monkey business, right? Where we're overthinking something, we're trying to make a story about what happened, and we really start to hallucinate so that we can disrupt the pattern. So when we hallucinate, I always say make it funny. Like, really go as far as you can in actually thinking about the worst case scenario in this situation. So if traffic is bad and you're late, you're going to lose your job, you're going to end up on the streets, you're going to lose everything, or, maybe the client didn't move forward with you and that's what triggered you, it's basically the end of the world. We want to hallucinate so far that we disrupt the pattern that our brain has, which is normally just to vaguely focus on something over and over again. And I always, again, like to try to make it funny. So I'm disrupting it. And then step 4 is to choose. So when we have choice, we have freedom. When we have freedom, we feel a lot more powerful. And so I look at 2 choices for this trigger. can I grow through this? Or can I avoid it in the future? Because nobody wants to endure the same trigger over and over again. And so again, we're taking back our power and being decisive. Is this something that I can grow through? So let's take that traffic example again. Am I able to actually calm myself and use traffic as my guru to be more patient? Can I use traffic as my guru to really just kind of show me that time is in abundance instead of in scarcity like it feels like it is? Or is it something that I can really just avoid? Can I absolutely maybe I'm never going to drive during rush hour traffic again, and I'm not going to face this thing. And so if it's a person that's triggering you, you get that same choice. Can I grow through this relationship and minimize these triggers so that my life experience stays more rooted in joy? Or is it something that I can avoid and I need to put bigger boundaries in place? So again, this trigger management system is something that's really saved me because of the intentionality. Rather than just going throughout days getting triggered, I kind of use it like a game. Like, how do I flatten more and more emotional triggers so that I can own my joy? Now, the other thing that I would say about triggers is that oftentimes, and if you've ever read any of Byron Katie's work, it's amazing. She added in another question that I tend to go through as well, which is it true? Our brain wants to try to figure things out, and sometimes there's no answer. You may not have a story for what's going on. You might be triggered by something outside of your control, and you don't really know the answer. And so I always ask myself that final question. Is it true? Is this really the truth, or is it something that my brain has made a story about? And so when we think about emotions, we have so much more power to own or enjoy than we give ourselves credit for, but it's going to take intentionality and practice. So I really urge you to practice this strategy. Now you can head over to bigvoicesrise.com. I actually have a worksheet there that's a trigger management strategy. And I would highly encourage that you take the top 5 triggers in your life. Maybe it's a parent that's constantly triggering you, or, a situation that is, and really just start to learn that I can actually grow through most of these, or I can set powerful boundaries so that I can avoid them in the future. So hopefully this episode resonated with you. Feel free to share it. Comment below on your biggest trigger, and I will make sure that I comment back to every one of you with things that maybe I've experienced that have worked for me or not. And I will see you on the next episode.